The burnt or the mythical Chicomoztoc, Zacatecas. The archaeological site of La Quemada in Zacatecas is part of the Mexican imaginary that made it a mythical place where the Mexicans would have passed on their pilgrimage to the center of what is now Mexico. La Quemada, or the mythical Chicomoztoc, Zacatecas by Mexico unknown. The 29th of June 2010, located on the border between northern Mexico and the west, the two cultural regions that have received less attention in terms of research. La Quemada continues to be an enigmatic space whose full history is yet to be known, although it is certain that it could have been occupied occasionally by nomadic groups, dedicated mainly to hunting and gathering. Many of the evidences that we could have about the presence of the Chichimecas have been denied to us by the passage of time and by the action of the rain and the wind. The ravages of nature took the flattened mud and lime, in addition to the mortar that served to give unity to the pieces that formed a set of buildings and foundations. But not only nature was responsible for deleting the profiles that gave definitive shape to La Quemada, also the colonizers, from the second half of the 16th century, used the buildings as raw material to build the cities and towns that made up the new urban geography of the region. Due to many factors, it has been difficult for archaeologists to determine the origin of the site and its cultural affiliation, which is why many researchers have speculated on defining and characterizing La Quemada. There are those who consider it an advanced Teotihuacan to the north, by Toltec development, a fortress of the combative Tarascans, the famous and legendary Chicomoztoc, a CAC scan center, and finally, as is logical, an important defensive settlement that gave shelter to indigenous groups settled north of the border marked by the large River of Santiago. However, thanks to the work of Peter Jimenez, today we know that La Quemada was occupied between the years 500 and 900 of our era. The laboratory analysis allowed to conclude that it is a settlement that grew and developed in the same years that correspond to the apogee and decline of Teotihuacan. Apparently, the site was abandoned when the Toltecs founded the city of Tallinn. The truth is that La Quemada is still there with its structures on a hill that reaches 250 meters above the level of the valley. Those who observe its architectural disposition have the feeling that it is a fortress, in which more than 40 platforms or terraces of different dimensions can be identified. But even if it could be defined as a defensive enclave, a careful vision of the whole also allows us to distinguish its civic-religious character. Most of what we see today in La Quemada corresponds to the last stage of occupation. It is a fortified ceremonial ensemble that bears a great similarity to those found in Mesoamerica during the Epiclassic period, 600 to 900 AD. The existence of a civic-religious center such as La Quemada is only explained by the presence of a permanent agricultural activity, capable of sustaining the labor needed to build it. Everything makes one think, and the evidences prove it, that the inhabitants of the valley where La Quemada is located, that of Milpasa, cultivated corn, beans, squash and maguey, as well as gathering wild products such as seeds of amaranth, tomato and nopal. Considering its geographic position, which would allow it to establish relations with other neighboring settlements, La Quemada could have been part of an exchange network in which Chalchihuites intervened, which was noted for its activity dedicated to mining, the Huchapila Canyon in the Atemajac Valley, the Aguas Calientes and Los Altos de Jalisco area to the northwest of Guanajuato. This network probably led to the exchange of products of various kinds, among which could be mentioned minerals, salt and shell, as part of the intense commercial activity that took place at that time in the northwest of Mesoamerica. The possibility is not ruled out that an activity of these characteristics would provoke confrontations between those who disputed the control of a region where turquoise was also traded from as far away as New Mexico. This last fact supposes the existence of a commercial corridor that extended in its apogee throughout more than 1,000 kilometers to the north and represented a real bond with the territory known as Aridomerica. The most important constructions of La Quemada were erected, as was logical at its peak. Thus, we observe the Hall of the Columns, the ball game, the pyramid. The burnt or the mythical Chicomoztoc, Zacatecas. The archaeological site of La Quemada, in Zacatecas, is part of the Mexican imaginary that made it the mythical place where the Mexica would have passed on their pilgrimage to the center of what is now Mexico. La Quemada, or the mythical Chicomoztoc, Zacatecas by